Welcome to Unleash Your Inner Goldilocks, How to Get It Just Right. Thank you so much for joining us for another insightful and deeply meaningful conversation. Today, we are going to be talking about the importance of getting our mind, body, and spirit aligned so that we approach our wellness from a truly holistic perspective. And I am a believer that what we consume consumes us. So we get to choose what we are going to consume. And when I say heart, mind, body, and spirit, and what we consume, it could be what we read, it could be what we watch, it could be what we listen to, not just consumption in terms of eating, but consumption from all our senses. And how are we internalizing it? How are we allowing it to manifest? And how is that then affecting us? And that is going to be a important conversation to have with the way the world is today and everything that's going on. And to have this conversation with me is a friend of the Goldilocks community, Amita Natwani, a Ayurvedic doctor and a alternative practice trainer and educator. So Amita, welcome back to Unleashing Goldilocks.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is such an amazing time. Let's start with what are you seeing in your practitioner world? And what are some of the elements from a heart, mind, body, spirit perspective that is truly driving people to a place where their wellness is in question?
It's a really fascinating time right now. When we practice holistic medicine, when I'm practicing Ayurvedic medicine, it's not just what are you eating or, what medication are you taking? How can we use supplements? It's not just lifestyle and doing your pranayama or yoga or meditation. It is inherently how are you living your life and how are you perceiving what's happening around you? And right now is the time. It is such a crucial time for all of us to be able to look within and ask ourselves, how are we handling what life is presenting us? And on a small scale, it could be just what's happening in your immediate world. But what I've begun to see in my practice of late, it's that most of the stressors that we're bringing in to our lives every single day, and what many of my patients are coming to me for, is what's happening on a global level. The amount of stress around economics, politics, even violence that one might be hearing about in the news or seeing or experiencing. Sometimes it's even things that have not yet happened, but perhaps it might be something that someone has read on social media. These are the things that we're combating. These are special problems that were not written in the Vedas. The Vedas did not say, and then when you look at social media, only be sure to only look at it for 1 hour each day. It was not even accounted for. We are in unprecedented times, and it is imperative that right now, when we start to look at how we approach our health, we have to start back at the beginning, the foundations of everything that we know about who we are and our connection to the world and our ability to interact with one another. We have to be able to start from the beginning and start with ourselves and go from there. And that is really what I'm seeing in my practice these days.
And I love what you're sharing, Amita, because there's research that shows that when you have an act of kindness, a random act of kindness towards a random person, that person's serotonin level and the well-being goes up for receiving. And the giver's good chemistry, body chemistry, and all the hormonal activity also goes up, right? And research also shows it's not just the person receiving the kindness and the person giving the kindness. People observing the kindness have the equal impactful experience in a positive way. So when research shows that, it is not too difficult to understand the reverse is also true. If watching somebody experience something is going to change us for the positive, it's also going to change us for the negative, right? And so we're living in such a uh, pressure cooker environment where everybody is set up for conflict with one another. And so we're constantly in a fight or flight mode.
Mhm.
And the human body was not meant to be constantly on fight or flight because we were supposed to get there for an emergency and then pivot back to normal.
Mhm.
And this also seems maybe, and I know research shows this to be true, the increase in cancer and blood pressure and diabetes and all of this is related to the fact that we're, as human race, we're constantly on fight or flight.
Absolutely. And, just as you were saying, the body is not meant to be in this place. We're meant to go back to homeostasis. And Ayurveda, I always say this, Ayurveda is homeostasis, the understanding of Ayurvedic medicine and how it pertains to you as an individual is bringing your own body back into homeostasis, not anybody else's. We can do the do's and the don'ts, and, we can figure out how to live the best life. But if you don't get to know yourself and what you need in order to be at peace with yourself, comfortable in your body, at ease, and have the ability to naturally have kindness, and it's very hard to say, well, you should just be kind, because when it's not actually happening inside of us, what's going to come out is what we're really feeling, and it is always a reflection back on ourselves. It's, a fear or an uncomfortableness of something that we also have to look within to discover. It's the age-old saying that, whatever's happening whatever conflict we have on the outside is really the conflict we have within. We could simplify it. It doesn't resolve some of our world's crises at the moment. I mean, it certainly doesn't address that. But if we go back to that first philosophy, which is you cannot change the world, you cannot change your city. You cannot change your family. You have to first start with yourself, and it begins to reverberate around you. And you know how you were talking about it, it's not just the person receiving and it's not just the person giving, the people around who observe. I mean, it's energetic as well. We see the research in water molecules with plants energetically on a frequency. There's a vibration that occurs when you are saying something kind, how it reverberates to everything around us, our entire environment. And that only lends to more of that energy as we walk forward. So it's all about finding that place of homeostasis again. And I a lot of arguments I get when I have a lot of patients who will come in and tell me I don't have to look at the news, I don't have to watch TV, I don't have to. My patients will tell me exactly what's happening on both sides of the spectrum. And I hear what policies are getting passed and what's happening right now in this country and that country. And every time I hear it, I just bring the person back to themselves again and do a gentle reminder that if they are out of imbalance, then they won't even have the capacity to fight for change. Because change does not come from fear. Change has to come. It has to come from that place where we are balanced and we are in tune with ourselves. And then we can really do the right things.
I totally hear you. And I'm so glad you went there, Amita, because people are angry, people are scared. Actually, people are terrified, right? All over the world, people are terrified because what happens in one place has reverberations in other places. I mean, I know for a fact I grew up in the middle of a genocidal war. It's not a war we created, but it's a war we inherited. And whether we were at war or not, we were getting killed, right? And so a lot of times we're in situations we didn't create. But how do you then stay in your place of peace, as I call it? You call it from a practitioner perspective, the homeostasis. I call it my place of peace. How do I stay in my place of peace? And how do I keep perspective? And how do I manage my emotions and come from the spirit and the energy to then influence the mind and the body and the actions and everything? And that is not something most people know how to do. And it's a question I get asked all the time. You have a husband who is literally at the end of life. You're living between two continents. You're running two households and you're working and you're still smiling. How do you do this? And how do you do the podcast on top of all of it? But to me, I don't know how to explain other than say, I made a choice very early on to stay in my place of peace because I can't change anything.
Yeah, and one, some people, are gifted with it, and I've gotten to know you over time, and you have that way about you, and just that alone, right? That is teaching. I didn't come from a place of peace early on in my life, and sometimes we have to have something that happens to us in order for us to gain perspective. This is a very common thing. This is actually written in the Vedas that oftentimes man will go about living their life, man, woman will go about living their life, being who they are, and maybe even going in the wrong direction, and getting lost in the maya of it, the illusion. We talk about misinformation. Oh, we are misinformed truly as human beings because we are so caught up in the minutia of the details of what life is offering us that we can't get a perspective. So what happens? You lose somebody dies. That's one place where that's a place that you get shoved off the ledge and you stop and you go, wow, what is life really about? Why am I here? What is my purpose? And usually we as human beings, we find that for a while until we get caught back up, into the minutia of life. Sometimes somebody will get sick. You mentioned even for you to have somebody in your life that can be ailing can oftentimes be a wake-up call. Like, oh, am I really utilizing my time in the best way? I've been focused on this the whole time. So in medicine, in traditional medicine, there are so many different ways that we can help one continuously stay in that place of what I would consider lucidity. Even in traditional times, Native American cultures, they do sun moon dances. This is something that I've had the honor of participating in, where for 3 days and 3 nights, you dance between yourself and a tree and you sleep on the ground at night and you fast from both food and water. And they ask you to do this every year because what happens is that when you fast from food and water, your brain starts to go, I don't think this thing that I've been hanging on to is very important right now. I have other things I have to deal with. My body is actually going through a few things. I better let go of what's not working and what I'm holding because I have to go into a place where I can be self-contained and I can survive. And when you do that, and when you get to do that, when it's not forced upon you, when you choose to do something that causes you to have determination and what's called practice, what you'll find is that you will slowly begin to ask yourself, what is really important in life? Where is my perspective going to lie today? Am I going to be angry at my neighbor who does not have the same viewpoint as I do in life? Or am I going to go out there and I'm going to look for joy? And asking ourselves that question, deciding when you wake up, I wonder what beautiful things life is going to offer me. Sometimes I wake up in the morning and I say that and I don't even mean it because I'm grumpy. I'm tired, I'm grumpy, something's been going wrong, but I've trained myself that you wake up every day and you say, I wonder what beautiful thing life is going to offer me today. And these are practices. So whether you do a sun moon dance every year, or you wake up with gratitude, or you decide to sit in silence and do meditation, the point is you have to be in practice in a place where you self-reflect every single day. And that could mean different things for different people. Dr. Cass, what do you think? What are your thoughts around that idea of
It
practice?
is something I have embraced for myself because I've had to go there, right? A lot of times people believe love is something you get from another.
Mm, mm-hmm,
And the love hormone is secreted when we sing by ourselves and when we dance by ourselves. So I actually, from childhood, because I grew up in a war zone, it's something I taught myself by watching nature and reading a lot in Tamil, not English books, but Tamil books.
mm-hmm,
And it always talked about the ability to sing and dance is something every creature has.
mm-hmm,
And if you can embrace the gift Mother Nature gave you, then you stay with nature and you allow nature to heal you. So
mm-hmm.
sometimes people I work with laugh at me because every morning and every evening I put the music on and I dance, I sing. And I tend to gravitate towards Tamil songs
Mhm,
because that's my native tongue. That is the music. I grew up with Carnatic music. I played the violin and I sang at the temple. So that is healing for me. And so for me, the things that allows me to remind myself that I need to be in my place of love for me, because raised in the Hindu tradition, I know the divine is inside me, right? I'm not looking for it outside. So if the divine is inside me, this body is a temple. Therefore, I am precious.
mhm,
And so, how do I embrace that love? Because the love is already inside of me, which is my soul, which is my divine. And then to me, things fall into place, but maybe partly I had trauma as a child. I've
mhm,
seen things most people can't even imagine. By the time I was 10, I had seen everything humans could do to another human.
mhm,
And so nothing shocks me. Absolutely nothing shocks me. And I'm not afraid of death because that will come at some point. And when we can, to me, what has helped is knowing that death is not the final. And in Tamil, technically, there is no word for death, right? So if I say to somebody, my husband has passed away in Tamil, we say kalamanar. That means Mike has become one with time. That is how we announce the passing of a person because the soul has moved on. The body is not the life, the soul is the life. So when I philosophically understand that and I come from a place of self love and I give of what I have because I can't give what I don't have, that calms me.
mhm,
And I always look for what is the uneasiness around me and how can I enter that dis-ease from a place of love. So let me give you a mundane example. Last week, I was at a CFO roundtable. We were talking about how to implement AI in finance. Okay.
mhm,
A bunch of CFOs, mostly men, and I had this tall, white bearded gentleman sitting next to me, and the guys have a different way of approaching. They're not very friendly. CFOs are not personable, right? And we were having the round table and food came and everybody started eating. I've chosen to be vegan vegetarian, so I'd ordered a broccoli. So I had grilled broccoli on my plate, and the gentleman sitting next to me, they forgot to serve him. So I looked around, everybody's eating, nobody's noticing, and he is getting agitated. I said, if you would like a vegetarian meal, you can have mine, or I'm happy to share. Or if you tell me what you want, I'll go ask the wait staff to get you your meal.
mhm,
And he said, I really can't believe you actually are offering your food to me, and I haven't even said hello to you. Right. And that opened up the floodgates. And in less than a week, he shared his whole life story with me. We're going to meet in person. We have built a relationship. But all it took is that split-second observation of, oh, this human has not been served. It's not whether he said hi to me or not. This human hasn't been served. Can I share what I have, or can I get him something to be served?
Mhm.
And that was just, I didn't have to do anything other than ask.
Yeah. And I mean, what a great example of how it is that, we're all the same, and same as you, growing up in different countries, people are always like, what's it like in India? Or what's it like here? What's it like there? And the answer is the same. People are inherently the same. We all just want to be loved and appreciated and respected for who we are as human beings. One of the things though I do have to say is the hardest part is, and I encourage everybody, just do it anyway. But the hardest part would be if you offered him that food and he wasn't kind to you in return. People oftentimes say, see, I tried to be nice and I tried to be kind. But what I remind people is it's not a cause and effect scenario. You be kind. That's the most important part of the equation. And how that other person chooses to receive it is none of your business. The
Yes,
point is that you get to go home every night. You get to look at yourself in the mirror and you get to ask yourself, was I able to rise to every potential occasion that there was to be the best version of myself? And if the answer is yes, then who cares what the rest of the world says?
absolutely. Absolutely. And this takes me back to, because I studied in Tamil my entire formal education,
Mhm.
and the way we teach in Tamil is very different from the Western education. And one of the stories we were taught is when you water a plant, you water the roots.
Mhm.
But what do the roots give you? Nothing. But the tree will give you leaves and branches and fruits and flowers. So don't look for reward where you watered. And it's very much the Bhagavad Gita, right? You're not entitled to the fruits of your labor, but you have a sacred duty to serve mankind, right? And when you understand that, and to me, that's not just Hinduism, right? It is universal. Whether you
Mhm.
take Christianity, whether you take Islam, whether you take Judaism, it is the same thing. So if we can truly see the humanity of the other person and do what is right, it doesn't matter how it lands.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. But us getting there, now that is the $1 million question, right? So even the best of us, we can talk about this all day, every day, but I don't know about you, but even I have my moments where I can't believe that this happened, and no, I'm not going to talk to them about this because they won't appreciate it. We all go through these things on a daily basis, and that is also okay. It's okay to give yourself the permission to have the emotions and the feelings of frustration. It's okay to not be satisfied with things that are going on in the world or another person's behavior or some change that we're seeing that we're not happy with. It's totally okay to feel that way. And it's okay to step into a place of where we might want to advocate for some change, even if it's telling the person next to you, you're not being very nice and I don't want to talk to you right now. We want to be able to say those things to create change. When
Mhm.
we are at peace with ourselves, we can find more effective ways to do it that don't cause harm. First, do no harm. As a provider, I follow this. This is my oath. But not just as a provider. If tomorrow I retire, I'm not dropping the oath. This should be a part of all of our lives. This should be our
Mhm.
mission statement. First, do no harm. But in order to get there, we have to stop doing harm to ourselves. And when we are,
That is so true, because
Mhm.
we always end up harming ourselves. And I truly appreciate you mentioning that we need to give ourselves permission to talk. This is where having accountability partners and having people we can be ourselves with is important, because they will give us perspective and they can walk us off the ledge. One. And
Mhm.
two, what I have learned through these moments is half the time people behave this way not because they're thinking anything about us. They're in a miserable place and they're not paying attention to anything else.
Mhm.
So I have always found that turning around and asking them, are you okay? Is
Mhm.
everything okay? Is there anything I can do for you?
Mhm.
That puts the brakes on whatever emotional place they're in, and it snaps them out of it. And then the person is given a chance to pause and pivot. Because most
Mhm.
of the time, then people are too busy and too consumed by themselves,
Mhm.
of themselves, to even think about how it's landing for us.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, and I think that one, and then if we're self-consumed and they're self-consumed, this is the never-ending cycle.
Mhm.
So we've identified the problem and we see how we are as human beings and we give ourselves permission to and give us grace to be human beings and we want to give others grace. I want to talk about some things that we can do to find that place of homeostasis so we can actually work from there. And it is different for everyone, but again, I always recommend, like I said in the beginning, go back to your basics. And many times it just comes from having a good practice. And I don't mean like a good spiritual practice or a good yoga practice, but have a practice with yourself. Have a practice with yourself where you get to know yourself. This is where we have something in Ayurveda called dinacharya. And dinacharya means daily routines. And it's not like do this, don't do that, but it's actually getting into your own personal rhythm. What a way to get to know yourself by doing the same kinds of things every day around the same time. And then when something is off, you go, oh, I recognize that that's off. Whereas when we are haphazard in our own lives, then we can't identify when we're sick or not well or something's off because we don't know what contributed to it because nothing has been consistent. So having dinacharya is critical in helping us maintain our homeostasis physically and also mentally. It is, you know how there's this theory you can't multitask? It's because the brain really is just used to switching back and forth between things, but we're meant to be here and now. So to create something for yourself that works every day. And one of the things, there's so many people who are like, wake up at 5 a.m. every day and get going and go for a run. If that doesn't work for you, if waking up at 8 a.m. works, wake up at 8 a.m. and be consistent about it. Some people say you have to drink hot water with lemon and this and that. If that doesn't work for you and you'd like to have a cup of coffee in the morning, have your cup of coffee in the morning. Ask yourself, is this detrimental to my health? If it isn't, sit back, enjoy it, don't overdo it, and watch to see what your body does over time. Eat at the same time, have similar routines throughout the day, and this is the only way you can get to know yourself. You will never know yourself if you don't actually spend time with yourself. And
Yes.
this is what Ayurveda is all about. It's that self referral mechanism that we can create to finally be in a place where we know who we are, and then we even have an inkling of an idea of what homeostasis even really means.
Mhm. And that is truly a pivotal self awareness, right? Emotional intelligence starts with self awareness. And if we don't know us, then how do we choose relationships for us?
Mhm.
Right? Everything starts from us. And a cool example comes to me in terms of stress and how the environment affects and routine. I was traveling across Latin America doing a M&A project for Warren Buffett, and I was in Chile, and the head of HR for that organization who was driving me around, she had a temple bell, like, we have at the altar in the Hindu households. And anytime there is traffic and she's getting road rage, she rings the bell because the sound calms her down. And that's the therapeutic way for her to get off her stress and find her rhythm and her peace. And so she has a bell in her car. So we talked about it. And now, when my American friends and my American coworkers get very angry, at traffic and driving, I have started giving them a gift of a bell.
Mm,
And it has become a fun story, but also a cool practice because we forget that sound waves are healing.
mhm,
Cancer can be cured with sound waves, right? The moods can be altered with sound waves.
mhm,
Plants have better yield when the right music is played,
mhm,
right? So the vibration is energy. And
mhm,
how do we incorporate some of those practices into our life? Because it requires us to have a routine act, but that act shifts the energy.
mhm. For sure. And I love this. I love this, of course, vibrational, like I said, we're all frequency, right? And so it's really, I love the way that you're tying in some of those components. I would encourage our listeners that if there's any frequency that you ever feel like you can access that brings your body back to a place again, it is the best place. It's the best way to do it. There's a lot of ways that you can train your mind, right? But it's like you can train your mind all day, every day, but it's like almost like somebody forgot to tell the nervous system too, and the nervous system needs to hear it. And this is a beautiful thing of sound vibration and energy and frequency. So I really appreciate that a lot, and that would be a great takeaway for our audience today.
Thank you so much, Amita. It is amazing how quickly time flies when you and I start talking. You and I could talk for days about these things. So let's make a promise to come back and keep building on this and start talking about different practices and different ways to heal. Because I believe we're in a time and a space where we all need this. It doesn't matter what we believe. At the end of the day, we're all human. And as you said, our humanity is common to all of us.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Cass. Always love chatting with you. And yes, maybe next time we could do an hour.
There you go. Thank you so much. And to our audience out there, take a moment and take a pause. Take a journey inward and build a relationship with you. Remember, the most precious relationship you will ever have in this life is the relationship with yourself. If you don't have a relationship with yourself, anything you build with other people are not going to work. So invest in yourself, find your core, find your vibration, and find the vibrational impact and the energy that keeps you in that place of peace, in that place of balance, because that's what Goldilocks is reminding us. How do you find that right balance, that centeredness, so that you can show up for you and you can show up for those you care about and live a life that you were uniquely meant to live? You don't have to be like anybody else, but you have to be you. There's only one you. So take that time and don't let all the external things rob you of that momentary gift of life we have, and go live it fully and surround yourself with people who will hold space for you and give you grace and give you the opportunity to find that centeredness, even if it takes 10 times a day, because we're all going to need that grace.